Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another film review. Tonight we got quite a hard one to get through actually, because it's a sad film, because it's the story of one of my favourite sort of musicians, um, and it's called Control, and it's by Anton Corbijn, starring Samantha Morton and Sam Riley. Um, and this is based on the life of Ian Curtis. Now, if you don't know who Ian Curtis is, he was singer of a post-punk band in the late 70s, early 80s called Joy Division, um, who sort of were going to become this amazing band, and it's heartbreaking to think that it's cut short. Um, uh, and what they could have become. The band consisted of Stephen Morris on drums, Bernard Sumner on guitar, Ian Curtis on vocals, and Peter Hook on bass. And they were sort of like an up and coming Manchester band. And this film sort of starts off sort of showing Ian in his school era, when he was um, already into sort of like taking his nan's pills and smoking a lot, and girls, and his one of his friends at school's got a girlfriend, and he sort of falls for her and she falls for him, and the story progresses between these two, and her name is Debbie, and they start a love affair, and then they get married very young, probably just leaving school. They get married, which was probably a huge mistake for Ian, because it sort of created a minefield of anxieties and depressions, because it's way too young to be dealing with these adult lives as did a child, really. Um, and we see the beginning of the band of like Joy Division, and they're in a pub, and they're trying to get themselves a sort of noticed, and they get themselves a manager who's really quite cool and quite funny in the film, and they try to get themselves um, noticed by a television sort of um, TV sort of who runs like a TV show, like sort of like Old Grey Whistle Test, those sort of shows. And they managed to get him to come to one of his gigs, and he really likes them, and he pops them on the TV, and things start to progress from there. And the band pay like for their studio time, and they record uh, uh, like a few songs. When they first started, they were called Warsaw, which I believe was named after a David Bowie song, because Ian was a huge David Bowie fan. He loved David Bowie and Iggy Pop. Anyway, so they were called Warsaw, but when they went to record their music, they said, no, we're not called Warsaw anymore. We're called Joy Division. And then so they changed their name and started performing gigs, and Ian had this real sort of stage presence. You know, you can't take your eyes off him, and they performed some shows and that went down really well and sort of become really popular really quick. And then they went and sort of recorded their first sort of album, Unknown Pleasures, which was a huge sort of like iconic now album. I think I've got it here actually, guys. I was listening to it yesterday. Um, that's the cover, and it's like an iconic album. And that was the first album they recorded. And the story sort of progresses with his relationship with his wife, how he's in love with her and he wants to have a baby. So she gets pregnant, and whilst he's out touring around the country and Europe, he meets a European girl called Anique, and they start to become close, and he starts having an affair behind his wife's back, and this is all shown whilst they've got a newborn baby, and poor Debbie's trying to cope with it because she absolutely adores him, and he adores her in his way, but this was the problem, I think, of them getting married so young. He felt like trapped, if you like, and this was like a way out, because Ian suffered from a number of things: depression, major depression, and severe epilepsy. So he suffered with these, and the medications he was on doesn't help with either of them. There was no sort of counterbalance going on with his medications, and with his sort of ways, his lifestyle of drinking, smoking, going working, doing concerts at night, working during the day. He worked in a job centre during the day, and it just got so much. And this film sort of follows a little bit of Joy Division's career, their popularity, and sees some mighty fine performances from Sam Riley, who plays Ian Curtis, and he's really replicated him really well, because Ian had a very unique style on the stage, very sort of hung over the mic stand quite a lot, and quite, you know, it didn't move a lot, but then all of a sudden, when the song livened up, Ian livened up, and he used to have an array of very kind of almost fit like dancing, and I believe he even on stage had epileptic fits and stuff, and all this sort of thing is sort of demonstrated in the film, and his depression, his involvement, and how his depression evolves around more than him, and he can't sort of like cope with it. He loves his wife, yeah, and his life there, that sort of calm, settled life, which is a complete opposite to his rock and roll life. But he loves that life as well, because he loves Anique, who's this sort of beautiful European girl that he falls for, and so he's torn. And then it comes to the stage where his wife finds out, and she's had enough, and she wants to leave, and she wants a divorce, but she loves him, she wants to cling on. He keeps trying to work it out. He tried to break up with Anique, but he couldn't do it. Yes, a lot of these things are, you know, they're unforgivable. You know, cheating on your loved ones is not a good thing. But I really believe Ian was in a situation of depression, that he felt sort of trapped in the marriage lifestyle because he was so young, and then trapped in this rock and roll lifestyle, which was turning into something big, which he didn't really want, I don't believe. I mean, because they were starting to get plans to go to America, record their second album. They went to a studio, which you see a little bit in the film, and they go to record their second album, Closer. And their popularity got big. And they sort of recorded a few singles, Atmosphere, Love Will Tear Us Apart, and things which weren't on the albums. And so they had all these recordings done, ready to go out. But Ian sort of decides that he's had enough, and he struggles to perform live on some of the parts of the film. He can't do it, and they have to get a replacement singer in, and the band start like a riot there and all this sort of thing, because Ian's not on stage, and his depression sort of like stops him from wanting to progress with his music career. It stops him wanting to resolve the relationship with Anique. It stops him wanting to sort out his relationship with his wife, Debbie. And I think that's where it got too much for him. And Ian sadly took his life on 18th of May 1980, where he committed suicide. And this film ends on his suicide moment. There's no point in carrying the film then, is there? Because the story is about his life. what do I think of it? It's an incredible film, absolutely amazing. A great portrayal of a broken man, if you like, a genius, but is broken. And this happens quite frequent, doesn't it? Within the sort of industries like this, you hear of rock stars taking their own life, and and I think it's because things, they just can't cope with it. They can't cope with the constant pressure of attention, and the public and people and the companies wanting more from you all the time. And some people, most musicians can cope with it, and they deal with it because they know it's their living. But some people who have suffering things like illnesses, he obviously epilepsy, depression, and all these sort of things. That's going to be really hard for him to cope with. You know, like Nick Drake, um, one of my favourite singers from the 60s and early 70s, who took his life very young. Ian was only 23 when he took his life. So, what could have he gone on to be? It would have been absolutely, we'll never know. It would have been incredible, because the two albums they produced were phenomenal, and they almost started the goth genre, if you like, because they were so dark and enriched with lyrics of loneliness and isolation, that it attracted that whole sort of young generation of people that were feeling that way around that time, and the whole goth sort of genre came out of that. Now, the pluses of this edition, it's shot in black and white, which is really cool, and I think that adds to the atmosphere, no pun intended, of the film. Really great direction. Anton's really well known for doing music videos. He does quite a few music videos for Depeche Mode and bands like that, and he does quite artistic sort of videos. So this is quite artistically filmed around the Macclesfield area of Manchester, where Ian was from. And it does recreate some of their sort of classical moments, like their first TV performance, that is replicated really well on here. And if you go on YouTube, I think if you put in Joy Division transmission BBC, it will come up, and the original video will come up, and you can see how well it's been replicated. A bit like a few years ago when they made that film about Freddie Mercury, they recreated the Live Aid part for their Bohemian Rhapsody film. And this is what this film has done. This was out way before that anyway. I'm going to score this an incredible watch and give it a 10 out of 10. Biased it may well be, because I do love Joy Division. Absolutely love them. I love Ian Curtis's lyrics, his work. It's fantastic, and it's such a shame that we lost him at such a young age. I will have a look at this. I might review this on my channel. I dug this out as well, because I do have this. This was a documentary that came out on the brink of control. And sort of like, it's really, really cool. And there's also another film available called is it 24 Hour, is it Party People? Can't remember the title, but it's based around the Manchester scene. And one of my favourite actors, Sean Harris, stars in that, and he plays Ian Curtis in there. I've only seen it once in the cinema, and I loved it. Really, really cool. But solely on Ian Curtis's life, this is phenomenal. Absolutely brilliant. Definitely worth picking up. If you're a lover of Joy Division's music, if you are someone that appreciates Ian Curtis and his works, and it gives you an insight to what was going on at that time, because obviously all we see was NME in pictures of Joy Division and popularity taking off, and him hitting the charts, the independent charts, and becoming #1 and all this, and really sort of like well known. And just before they were going to release their second album, Ian took his life, and it's such a sad time. And his wife found his body in their house. So it's a very, very sad and bleak story, but and it's told in a very respectful and dignified way. They didn't. Yes, Ian had his issues, and he'd done some wrong things, obviously with his affair. But it was filmed in a dignified way to keep his pride and to keep his family's pride as well. And I think that's really, really well done, and I love that. Definitely worth checking out, guys. See you soon.